Good afternoon. So, welcome to this last session of the Understanding Dependent Origination. So, before we start, let's do some short prayers. Let's recite the Heart of Perfection of Wisdom Sutra so that the imprint in our mind gives us the blessing so that at least we can have some little understanding of the teaching itself. Because the subject on dependent origination, that means emptiness or selflessness, is actually very profound, as you will see later on in some of the slides, which I'm not going to explain, but at least if you read it, you'll find that it is quite profound, the meaning. And for us to truly understand it, we cannot just merely depend on our own intellectual capacity, but we need the blessings of the Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, so that when we receive the blessing, our mental continuum is ripened. That means it opens up. It opens up to receive the teaching, and also for the understanding, the wisdom that understands this emptiness to arise easily. So that's the purpose of reciting this particular sutra. I prostrate to the higher Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on the mass of Vultures Mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perceptions. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activities of profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharadvatiputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activities of profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristics, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to the unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it's not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Aya Alaktishvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Aya Alaktishvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Take refuge, generate bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Let's do a short meditation. So please adjust your body posture. Make sure you are seated straight up. You can keep your eyes closed. And just simply allow your attention to rest on your breathing. As your body breathes in, be aware that you are breathing in. And as your body breathes out, be aware that you are breathing out. So in this way, breathing in, I'm aware. Breathing out, I'm aware. So simply let your attention rest on the breath and stay relaxed, not being distracted by thoughts or not falling into mental sinking. Allow your body to breathe naturally. Do not force your breathing. You only need to do is just to be aware. Now that your mind has calmed down a little, just think to yourself, the most meaningful way for us to live our life is to be able to benefit others. And the best way that we can benefit others is to help them move away from suffering and guide them to attain the ultimate state of happiness, liberation, and enlightenment. Then think, while we may have the wish to be able to benefit others in the most perfect way, at this moment, we do not have the wisdom and the capability to be able to do it perfectly. The only way for us to be able to truly benefit others is for ourselves to attain this fully enlightened state, whereby we ourselves are free from all the delusion and all the ignorance and defilements. When we train ourselves to that level of mental state, then we will be able to truly benefit all sentient beings in the most perfect way. In order for us to reach that state of full enlightenment, we have to engage on the path of enlightenment, which means that we have to complete the accumulation of method and the accumulation of wisdom. So for that purpose, we are gathered here today to listen to this teaching, the most profound teaching of the Buddha on dependent origination, so that we can very quickly attain full and complete enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. So, adjust motivation to benefit all sentient beings. So a very quick review of our previous session. So this slide, we have shown it a number of times, repeatedly, just to remind ourselves, all right? You will see this slide again at the end of this session. All you need to do is to remember this. Whatever arises dependently is explained as empty. That means whatever that comes about, that exists, the way they come about, the way they exist, if they have to depend on something else, then that object or that phenomena, we call it empty. We call it selfless. We call it selfless because it does not have a self. A self means the ability to be able to exist on its own without depending on any other thing. So anything that cannot depend on itself to exist, or rather, anything that come into existence through having to depend on other factors, that means this phenomena or this object, we call it selfless, or we call it empty of inherent existence. So that is the main statement. Then now, Buddha said, through his wisdom, Buddha said that there's nothing, whatever that is not dependently existence. That means Buddha is telling us that if you were to explore all the phenomena, every single phenomenon that exists, that you know that exists, you cannot find anything that is not dependently existence. That means you cannot find anything or any object where we say that, yeah, this thing is there on its own by itself without having to depend on other thing. Nothing. You cannot find such a thing. So therefore it says, since there's nothing, whatever that is not dependently existence, for that reason, there's nothing whatsoever that is not empty. So the last line says that all phenomena, whatever we know, whatever we hear, whatever we experience, its nature is empty. Because its nature is selfless, its nature is such that it cannot support itself on its own. The only way any phenomenon can support itself is through having to depend on other factors. So therefore, everything is empty. This is why when we talk about Buddhist teaching, we always say everything is empty. So that's the meaning. That means it doesn't have a self. So then in order to understand that, we need to develop this wisdom. This wisdom is not just merely intellectual wisdom. Of course, we start with intellectual wisdom. We need to listen, then we need to contemplate and see whether it's valid or not. Up to that level, it is intellectual wisdom. So, but we need to further develop that wisdom into what they call directly perceiving. Directly perceiving means whereby we actually experience it ourselves, over and beyond the need of reasoning. Directly perceiving means that realization. So that wisdom that directly perceives the way how all phenomena actually exist, this will lead to the elimination of ignorance of grasping the concept of true existence. Although Buddha told us that, or Buddha gave the teaching that everything is selfless, because everything does not exist on its own. All the things that we see, we experience, all these things have to exist depending on other factors. All right, that is the truth. That's the fact. Although Buddha said that, although we have listened to that throughout the last 5 weeks plus this week, 6 weeks, and yet, due to our habitual imprint, due to our ignorance or confusion, whenever we see something, when we perceive something, we still see them as truly existing on its own side. And due to our ignorance, we continue to grasp on it, holding on to this concept that they are truly existing on its own side. So that grasping is what I call ignorance. Grasping at the concept of true existence, that is called ignorance. In order to overcome this ignorance, we need to develop the wisdom. And that wisdom is the wisdom that enables us to directly perceive how things actually exist. So if we are able to develop this wisdom that directly perceive how things actually exist, that means to see the reality of how phenomena exist, then we will cut the root of samsara and we will attain liberation from cyclic existence. So if you are truly, truly interested in the practice of the Buddhist teaching, this is what you should be aiming for. Ultimately, this is what you should be aiming for. Not just to aim for some happiness of this life. That is a very mundane approach. Our ultimate objective as a Buddhist practitioner, our ultimate objective is to attain liberation from cyclic existence. So this wisdom covers the realization of selflessness of the person and selflessness of phenomena. There are no such thing as two selflessness. There's no such thing as selflessness of person, and then there's another set of selflessness of phenomena. But for us to understand better, all right, for us to easily understand it, Buddha taught in this way, explaining selflessness of the person, that means me or I, and then selflessness of anything that is other than this me or I. But the theory, the concept behind it, the truth behind it is all the same, one and the same, all right? But Buddha explained it that selflessness of a person, because it's the person that grabs, all right? Once you realize that there's no I, then you will not grasp on it. Then when you further realize that, in fact, all phenomena outside are also selflessness, that even if you want to grasp, there's nothing to grasp at. So that will complete the investigation. That's why Buddha's teaching is given that selflessness of the person, me or I, and then selflessness of any other phenomena outside. Okay? But in reality, it is the same selflessness, the same approach. So please do not go away from this course thinking that there are two types of, or two kinds of selflessness. Same principle. Just explain looking at that and looking at this. So Buddha taught that when phenomena are individually analyzed as selfless, so when phenomena in general includes everything, includes the me or the I. So when we are able to analyze, individually analyze, that means we analyze this I or me as selfless, then we analyze this computer as selfless, when we analyze our handphone as selfless, when we analyze our relationship as selfless, and money as selfless. So when all these phenomena are individually analyzed as selfless, and as I said, not enough, because that analysis is still on an intellectual level. It is not deep down. It doesn't blend in. It doesn't infuse in our mind, mental continuum. It doesn't affect the way we behave in a complete way. So then we need to do what has been analyzed is meditated upon. So you have to meditate based on the methods. Some example we gave over the last two classes, number 4 and number 5. Then based on those methods, you try to do some meditation on your own. Right? We will cover that a little bit today again. And then that itself, that way, that means this approach, that is the cause for attaining the fruit, nirvana. That means you want to attain liberation, there's no other way. As Buddha said on the last line, one does not go to peace. That means one does not attain nirvana. One does not attain liberation from samsara through any other cause. This is the only way. So if your desire as a practicing Buddhist, if your desire is to attain liberation, then this is the only way. Well, in fact, I should not say that as a practicing Buddhist. Anybody, whether you are Buddhist or non-Buddhist, anybody, if you look at it, if you study this subject carefully, and you really understand it, then you find that dependent origination applies to all of us. It applies to me, it applies to you, it applies to anybody who are non-religious or non-Buddhist. It applies to the cat and the dog, everything. It applies to the whole world, dependent origination. So once we understand that, once we realize that, then we will be completely free, whether we are Buddhist or not Buddhist. So I should not say that we are just Buddhists, but only Buddhists practice like that. But the only way to attain liberation, that means free from the cycle of birth and rebirth, birth, death, and rebirth, then that's the only way. So again, this is a very important teaching here. Please remember that. Okay. So now we continue with today's session, cutting the root of samsara and a joyful wisdom. Cutting the root of samsara, I will cover a little bit, already explained just now in the previous slide. I will cover a little bit more on this, and then spending a little bit more time on joyful wisdom. How do we live our life? I mean, we're not going to achieve liberation immediately. I mean, it takes time, it takes training. I mean, to meditate upon the subject also takes time, to get the idea, to be infused into our mental continuum. So meanwhile, based on what we have learned over the last 6 weeks, how do we use that knowledge on an intellectual level to help to benefit our life? If it doesn't benefit our life immediately, then it's no use, right? So it becomes just mere academic study. That's not what we are interested. We want something which is practical, that can affect my life immediately if I were to apply it, to affect my life immediately so that I can bring greater peace and happiness in my present life and of course future lives. So that is covered in the joyful wisdom. As I said, this is a combination of 2 classes into 2 sessions into one, condensed mode. So how do we, so Buddha said that, earlier slide, it says that we have to analyze and see that all phenomena are selfless. And not only analyze it individually, we have to meditate on it. So how do we meditate, right? You cannot just go to some corner and say, I meditate, and then space out. No, how do you meditate? So Buddha gave this teaching called the Mahasatipatthana Sutra, the great discourse on the foundations of mindfulness. So this is a very important sutra that Buddha gave for the practice of understanding how phenomena exist. So Buddha, in this sutra, Buddha said, this is the only way. So straightway Buddha said that already. He's telling his followers, the bhikshus, the monks, and of course all the other people, his students. He say, no need to look for any other way. This is the only way. How? For what purpose? For the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrows and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief. We now have a lot of pain. We have a lot of grief. All right? Physical pain, mental pain, grief. All these things, this is the only method to overcome all this. For reaching the noble path. Some of you may already have heard of the noble eightfold path. How do we actually practice the noble eightfold path? I mean, it's one thing to know the noble eightfold path and that these are these things, but how do we actually practice? So Buddha says this is the only way. Through this meditation, for reaching the noble path, for the realization of nirvana, and then that teaching, the method, is namely the 4 foundations of mindfulness. This is the way. So the 4 foundations of mindfulness actually talks about how we actually become mindful, mindful of 4 specific areas. So these 4 areas are the contemplation of the body. Buddha asks us to focus on the body, includes the breath. That's why we spend a lot of time, we focus a lot. When we do meditation, we focus a lot on learning how to meditate or to be aware of our breathing. Because that itself is not just allowing our mind to calm down when we become aware of our breathing. But when you go further, as you calm down, through that mindfulness of the breath, you will know that the breathing itself is not permanent. It's changing. All right, depending on your mood, depending on the situation. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, and so it's impermanent. And then also it is dependent origination. It arises and then it disappears. So like this. So through the contemplation of our body, including the breath, contemplation of the feeling. When we say something is good, something is pleasurable, something is unpleasant, something is neutral. You contemplate on these feelings. These feelings will actually add to the ariser of anger, hatred, jealousy, attachment. All this will come through these feelings. So also contemplation on the consciousness, that means on the mind. Meditation on the mind. And then finally, contemplation or meditation on the dharmas. Dharmas means all the other phenomena, including the 5 aggregates. All right? Because when we analyze the self, we can say, oh, there's no I. This I is just made up of the 5 aggregates: form, feeling, discrimination, condition factors, and mental consciousness, body and mind. So then that release, then you say that, oh, there's no I. But then that form, body and mind, that itself also is empty. That means the body itself is also empty. All right? The body is made of 4 elements or 5 elements. That 5 elements are also empty. So like this, you go all the way down. That means even the 5 aggregates are empty. Even the 4 noble truths are also empty. So in fact, the whole thing, all the Dharma, all phenomena are empty. And this is what we have been talking about, right, throughout this very short course. And in fact, we are actually doing a very small aspect of the meditation as given by the Buddha in this Mahasatipatthana Sutra. So I would suggest, if you are interested, go and download this sutra. It is available free of charge on the internet. Just download it. There are different translations available. Depends on translated by different people. And variation, the translations have some Sanskrit. Sometimes the translations are a little bit different, depending on the translator and their interpretation of the sutra. Because the sutra itself is so profound. So the translator sometimes interpret it in their own way. So you may want to just look through that if you are interested. So for this course, we are not going into this, just to point out to you that such a sutra exists. Then we say that the path, all right? So inevitably, when we talk about dependent origination, we talk about the Noble Eightfold Path, then we at least have to explain or mention how this Noble Eightfold Path. So the Noble Eightfold Path, again, we are not going to explain in this course, to explain in detail the Noble Eightfold Path, but here just to present it in a way whereby the Noble Eightfold Path can be grouped into 3 basic divisions. And this is the way it is. The first division is moral virtue, that means morality or ethics. Those who are familiar, straight away you can see that this is the 3 higher trainings. 3 higher trainings for liberation. Ethics, concentration, and wisdom. So moral virtue is ethics. Then next one is meditation is concentration. And insight or wisdom is wisdom. So when you categorize the Noble Eightfold Path into these 3 categories, it is as it is there. All right. The right speech, right action, and right livelihood will make up the morality. If we live with the right speech, we speak. That means actually it's we live with the right speech, then we do the right thing, and then we live in the right way, then that is morality. And then when we put in the effort, diligence, mindfulness, and concentration, that is a meditative concentration. And finally, if we hold the right view and the right intention, then that is the wisdom. And so far, over the last 5 weeks, we have been just focusing on right view. The right view, the right way, the correct way, the unmistaken way of looking at the reality of things. Because if we do not have the right view, if we hold on to the view that things exist, really exist, that there's a real computer there, there's a real you there, or there's a real me there, and holding on to that, thinking that that's the right view, then we will not be able to gain the insight. the special wisdom that can overcome the confusion or the ignorance, then we will not be able to attain liberation. So Buddha taught the Noble Eightfold Path, saying that you must develop the right view. You can see in terms of numbering, based on the Noble Eightfold Path, the way it is arranged, right view is number 1. Right view is number 1. It means you must start off by having the right view, the right understanding or the right view that things are like that. So, of course, having the right view doesn't mean that we are straightway becomes very wise. Maybe we become wise intellectually, we understand, but we still hold on to the concept because of the habitual imprint, habitual tendency. We still hold on to it. So, but at least the right view is the first part. If you strongly believe that there are really got things outside, solidly existing. So from Buddhist teaching, that's the wrong view. And if you hold on to a wrong view, that means a wrong belief. You hold on to a belief and you follow the belief along the path, you're going to be on the wrong path. Right? Because if you believe that the something is true, and then you follow to look for that, then if your belief is wrong, then you're going to be in trouble, right? So therefore, the first thing is that make sure your view, your understanding is correct. And our understanding here will be the right view is that all things, as I shown on the first slide, all things are dependent origination. There's nothing that is not dependently arising, and therefore there's nothing that is not empty or selfless. With that view, which is the correct view as taught by the Buddha, then your focus as you practice, you're always using that as the goal. And then you practice along the path, you'll be on the right path. And you will reach the goal, right? Because your target is correct. You identified the correct target. So this is important to understand that in the context of the Eightfold Path for the Nobles. So as I said, our course is not to go into detail on this teaching, but just to highlight to you how this teaching on the dependent origination is tied back to the Noble Eightfold Path. So then, of course, the question is that, okay lah, this is what Buddha said, right? Buddha is a superior being, but can or not? Can we attain liberation or not? You see, this question will come about when we start to study. Now you listen to this teaching a little bit, then you go back, then you try to practice. Okay, things are empty because I cannot see. There's nothing really there that is solidly there. But when something happens, straightway we hold on to it. Like last week we say, you see money, you want or not? You see money there, you want or not? Of course you want, right? You do not just fold your hands and say, see money is empty, there's no money, and then you cannot do like this. So then how do we, then when we sit down and then we analyze, cannot lah, no, we are holding on to it, grasping things so solidly. Our habit is so strong. Then how can we become Buddha? Well, we understand the teaching, we understand the logic, but our mind doesn't change. If our mind, as long as our mind remains in the old way, covered with confusion, then we're going to remain in samsara. So how can we attain liberation? So end up that while we are practicing, we think that Buddha is somebody up there. We are just down here, follows Buddha's teaching. Every day just recite some prayers and that's about it. No hope of ourselves attaining the same level as the Buddha. So this is a very important thing which we have to understand, and that obstacle we have to overcome. So it says here, our habit of seeing phenomena as truly existing on their own side is of course a mistaken or wrong understanding. This confusion, this misunderstanding or wrong understanding binds us in samsara. The reason why we are in samsara continuously is that we have this wrong understanding. Now, here the important thing is that, however, there's hope. It says here, since this understanding is false not truth. Hence, it can be rectified by correct understanding through developing the wisdom that realizes the ultimate truth of the nature of all phenomena. True and false. The truth, there's only one truth. Not like some president who declare there's alternate truth. Alternate truth. So here there's only, when he says truth, there's only one. True or not? I mean, that's the only one truth, You cannot say this is also true, this is also true. There's only one truth. But false can be many false views. That's why we have all this false news coming out. You can talk all sorts of things. So now, the thing is that at the moment, our confusion is false. So all we need to do is to correct that false view and make sure that it becomes the correct view. This correct view is what we were talking about earlier in the Noble Eightfold Path. Correct view. Once you have the correct understanding, then eventually, using that as a focus, using it as a goal, eventually we will turn ourselves around. So this is the thing, this is the hope. All right. If there's no truth, then we are always confused. But there's one truth there, and if we recognize the truth, all right, by using correct understanding, and this truth of developing the wisdom that realizes what the ultimate nature of phenomena. That means once we understand, realize how things truly exist, that itself will enable us to break this misunderstanding, break this confusion. And once we break it, that means we are able to attain liberation. So on this basis, we can attain liberation. So this is what we explain now. Then we must always go back to Buddha's words. So Buddha, in the King of Samadhi Sutra, Buddha explained the essence of Sugatas pervades all beings. He's saying that Sugatas means Buddha, enlightened being. The essence of the Buddhas pervades all beings. That means all sentient beings, including the dog, the cat, and ant. They have the same, what they call, Sugata Bhadra. Yeah, the essence, the essence of Sugatas. All beings, they have that. So then, Buddha says, generate the most vast and sublime intention. You must have the intention. You must have the aspiration. Although all sentient beings have the Buddha potential, the essence of Sugata means Buddha potential, or the Buddha nature. Although we have that, if we do not have the intention, the vast and sublime intention, we will not become a Buddha. So we do not become a Buddha if we do not have the intention. That doesn't mean that we cannot become a Buddha. There is a potential that we can achieve and become a Buddha. So now, second line, Buddha's advice to us is tell us we must generate that vast and sublime intention. We must generate this intention that I want to become a Buddha. Now I have the potential. Now I want to become a Buddha. And this is the reason why at the beginning of the class we set motivation. We always say that I want to become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So that intention is already there. I want to become a Buddha. The purpose is to benefit others. So then, for each and every being has the cause of awakening. Every sentient being can become a Buddha, has the cause of awakening. There's not one single sentient being who lacks this potential. So that is the saying of the Buddha. You should feel very happy. Got chance. At least got chance. Got hope that I can become Buddha. Then whether you become Buddha or not depends on your intention, lor. So you can't blame anybody, right? If you don't work on it, you cannot say that I cannot do, I don't have the quality, I don't have the whatever things. You cannot even blame. Because Buddha says every sentient being, as long as you are sentient beings, you have the potential of becoming a Buddha. The final thing is that whether you yourself has the intention, the aspiration to become a Buddha or not, and to work for it. So, which means that now you think, liberation possible or not? Possible. You cannot say not possible, so difficult, so long. I need to do so much practice, must always come and do meditation. I cannot sit still, I cannot do that. These are excuses already. Because already Buddha said you can become a Buddha. So whatever excuse we give are just our own excuse. Just our own laziness, our own lack of interest. That means we have no intention. Then now comes this part here. I just go through very quickly. The words, some words and thoughts of wisdom for reflection. These are some quotations. It gets a little quite profound. I'm not going to explain in detail on this quotation. As I said, if we were to explain it, it goes quite deep. Okay. Just verses and quotation. Wisdom or special insight. Now, for contemplation, you think. Our concepts and projections play a very large part in defining the way we experience and interpret things. You contemplate. These are on the notes, all right? Then you read. Is it? Our concept, our projection plays a very large part in defining the way we experience and interpret things. When two persons can be in the same place, eating the same bowl of noodles. I use simple example. So two persons sitting there eating the same bowl of noodle. One enjoys it, one doesn't enjoy it or hate it. What is that? That is merely our concept and projection. And then, because of our concept and projection, then we experience and interpret the thing differently. Right? So use this for everything. These are words of wisdom. So whenever in the life you have certain experience, you go back and say, hey, I have a very bad experience in the office. Then you see, was that experience, the way I experienced that, the way I interpret that happening in the office, is it based on my concept? Concept means mentally you fabricate. Mentally you make up some picture. Actually, our life is just full of concept. No? We build up a story or our projection. If you can see that, then you will be able to experience things differently. Then next one, there's nothing. Now it comes to this, based on earlier part. Earlier part is our concept, right? How we experience. The way we experience is that, oh, it's a good experience, it's a bad experience, right? You go there, oh, how we enjoy a holiday, it's a bad experience. Or you come back, oh, I really enjoy it, it's a good experience. So then, next is that there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Thinking means what? Mental concept. Concept, as I mentioned earlier, is mental fabrication. Mentally you create, all right? So, and this is, William Shakespeare is actually, someone's quotation, I think he probably was practicing some Buddhist thing at that time, you know. William Shakespeare and also Einstein, these two. So, because like William Shakespeare, in one of his writing also, he says, all the world is a stage and all the people are players. Isn't it like that? The whole world is just a stage. And we are just players, actors. That means in this life, we play this role. In this life, we come in this life as a male and play this role as a father or a husband or whatever, as a son. And then after this life, we go down, come back, change uniform, change different name, come different names, different thing, and then come different role. Or maybe next life come back acting as a dog. I mean, something like that. So very profound, you know. All the world is a stage. This thing that we see, the world, is just a stage. And all the people are just actors. So William Shakespeare in Hamlet, he said that there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. The thing gets quite profound. You may think, oh yeah, this I understand. If I think it's good, then it becomes good lah, right? If I think it's bad, then it's bad one. So if you think about it, of course, let's say you go for a holiday, you say, oh, the holiday sucks, it's bad experience. Then it depends, it's all in your mind, right? If you look at it differently from different angle, then you find, oh, it's good. Now at least it was bad in terms of all the things are very disorganized. Then based on that, now I recognize, I learn how to organize things better. I can see that if I would organize a holiday or a tour, I would not do it in the same way as those guys. So I'm learning it. So in that sense, it's good. So depends on how we look at things. The important point which are trying to come to the final part is that everything comes from the mind. Everything comes from the mind. All right? Ultimately, everything is the middle path. It is only because of fabrication. Fabrication means mental concept. Things become good or bad. That means middle path, there's no good, no bad. You make it good, you make it bad. Right? Then next one will be, now we come to Prajna Paramita already. The wisdom, perfection of wisdom. Through Prajna Paramita, you will understand the true nature of everything. Nothing exists independently. Everything is the result of interdependent conditions. So this one, we have explained a little bit on this. Then, everything is like a reflection of the moon in the mirror. It exists, and yet at the same time, it does not. We covered this a little bit. You look at the reflection of the moon in the mirror. I think it's hard to see the moon in the mirror, but let's say the moon in the water. Is there a moon in the water? Yeah, there's a reflection. There's a reflection there. All right. So you look at it, there's a moon in the water. All right. So it exists, and yet at the same time, it does not. Those on the Bodhisattva path should train themselves to see perfectly that even the five aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence or inherent existence. This I explained earlier already. When we analyze the selflessness of the person, we cannot just stop at the five aggregates and say the person is only made up of the five aggregates, and therefore, since a person, I, is made up of five aggregates, therefore the I is empty. Stop there, not enough. For those on the Bodhisattva path, those who aspire to become a Buddha, not just an Arhat, just become a Buddha, then you have to attain ultimately you have to eliminate the obstacle to omniscience. You want to be able to see all phenomena. So you must also understand that even the five aggregates are also empty. And then you break it down to all phenomena are empty. Buddha taught how everything is dependent on our thoughts. That means our mind. So Buddha said, here, even the various mind-pleasing blossoming flowers, that means the most beautiful flowers, and attractive, shining, supreme golden houses, all the beautiful houses, all these have no inherently existent maker at all. They are not inherently existent. They are not made by somebody. They are set up upon through the power of thought. Through the power of conceptuality, the world is established. Very profound, very hard to understand. The whole world that we experience. Earlier we said, I think in one of the classes we said that all the world, all the phenomena are dependent arising. Everything comes from the whole world. Phenomena are just arising due to dependent origination. Then in our dependent origination analysis, we also say that there are three different ways of looking at dependent origination in terms of causes and condition, in terms of parts, and in terms of labeling. Name, merely labeled. So here, it goes to very profound that it is through the power of conceptuality the world is established. Quite hard for us to understand that. And which means that quite hard for us to accept it for this moment. Just take it as it is. Until we are able to reach that level of wisdom, we will be able to see it. To think that the whole world, that means all this is just through our mind. The power of conceptuality means they are mere appearances of our mind, mere projection of our mind. Some of you are learning to practice Mahamudra. At least this makes a little bit sense. Appearance is mind. All right? Emptiness is mind. Everything is just a mere projection of the mind. Other than the mind, here mind means the power of conceptuality. Other than the mind, nothing else exists. So at this point here, trying to think into it will be quite difficult. How can it be? You are there, what? I mean, okay, I analyze you, I cannot find you, but you still are there. How can you say that all these things, I see all this, is just in my mind? But when you actually analyze and start to meditate on it, there's a possibility for us to have, at this stage, some taste that indeed things seems to be that it's just a projection of the mind. But as I said, this is actually very, very profound. Huh? If you don't understand this, doesn't matter. At this stage. Then, some of the slides further down is even more profound. Then we meditate on the abandoning the limitation of existence and non-existence. So far, we have been talking about, started by saying that things seems to exist. There's a computer. Then we go to dependent origination and say actually there's no computer there, right? It doesn't exist in the sense that it doesn't exist inherently. There's no computer there. Then when you go even further down, then it says there's no such thing as exist or non-existent. That's why in the Heart Sutra, it says that there's no attainment, there's also no non-attainment. All right? So it goes into that level. So here, limitation of existence, non-existence. It is not existence. Even the victorious ones, that means the Buddha, do not see it. So when we look at something, then we say, hey, this is not existence. So when you look at it, when you analyze it, although while it is there, you analyze it, you cannot find this object, right? Remember now how you analyze it, tear up by parts, by thinking that it is not there by itself, it comes from causes, condition, the sewing and all that sort of thing. And then we label it, we give it a label and say this is a pouch or whatever it is based on its name, therefore it's there. Therefore it says, it is not existence. You cannot find this pouch. Even Buddhas cannot see it, then how can you say you see it, that is there? So therefore it says, this is not existence, because even the Buddhas do not see it. So when we say this is not existence, we are talking about ultimate or absolute truth. Then after you say, oh, then I know lah, this thing doesn't exist. If you analyze it, you cannot find a pouch. Then second line says, who say got no pouch? It is not non-existent. Who say got no pouch? This is the basis for you. You can put things there, therefore there's a pouch. So therefore, here, it is the basis of all samsara and nirvana. That is the relative truth. So, on one hand, we cannot say that it doesn't exist. That on one hand, we cannot say that it exists. On the other hand, we also cannot say it doesn't exist. So this way of looking at it is not a contradiction, but the middle path of unity. So then there's a prayer that may the ultimate nature of phenomena, luminous mind beyond extreme, be realized. There's a prayer for us to realize that. Then also, the abandoning the limits of being and not being. If one says, this is it, there's nothing to show. You point at anything, this is it, then you ask where? You cannot find, okay? Then you say, this is not it. There's nothing to deny, but there's something there, okay? So being, that means being and non-being. So the true nature of phenomena, which transcends conceptual understanding, is unconditioned. Right now we hear these few lines, right? Cannot understand it, doesn't make sense. Why? We are using our concept. The very moment you look at these lines, we are using our mind to think, using our concept, logical thinking to say, try to analyze, how does it make sense? So it says the true nature of phenomena, which is beyond conceptual understanding. So something which is beyond concept, and then we use concept to analyze it. How can you analyze and gain understanding? This is the very, very, very profound level of the understanding, the wisdom of emptiness. So again, the prayer, may conviction be gained in the ultimate perfect truth. This is the ultimate perfect truth, which at the moment we don't even understand. Doesn't make sense. So then, earlier part, these two slides, talk about the relative truth and the ultimate truth. Then why do we need these two? All right? Why can't we just talk about ultimate truth? So it says that we need the support of relative truth to help us in our practice until we can understand the ultimate truth. Then the ultimate realization is not I exist or I do not exist. So far, we started by saying that our thinking is that I exist, right? We come in the class that I exist. Then over the last 5 lessons, we've gone through and said I does not exist. There's no truly existing I. Then you go off last week thinking that now I know I does not exist. Then you think you realize. Then he says the ultimate realization, not the highest. The ultimate realization is not whether I exist or I do not exist. I is beyond all concepts of dualistic thoughts. That is again very chim. Okay? Never mind, I'm saying all this, I choose all these verses. Why? For the purpose, it's just leaving some imprint in your mind that at least you have heard it before. Don't understand you heard it before. That is going to be quite helpful in the future. All right? To be able to realize that, firstly, you must go through the process. Right? There's no shortcut. You go through a process. First, you see that there's an I. Then you go through the practice and develop the wisdom and understand that there's no I, no inherently existing I. Then now you think that, oh yeah, there's no inherently existing I. You'll be holding on to that. Then as you progress higher level or more profound, then you find that there's no I or no non-I. That's why it says no attainment, also no non-attainment. Because all these are just dualistic thinking. Existence and non-existence are extremes. Purity and impurities are extreme as well. Thus, having relinquished both extremes, the wise do not dwell even in the middle. So the earlier part, we say, oh, I know lah. First we come in with ignorance, thinking that there's an I. We hold on to that. Then after attending 5 classes of dependent origination, then we tear that down and say, actually there's no I. Okay? Then we say, okay, now, then we talk about conventional truth. No I is ultimate truth. But there's an I that's operating, right? We eat, we sit down there. So then that's a conventional truth. So the teaching says that now you must stay in the middle. Don't go to the too extreme. One extreme is that I exist. The other extreme is that I do not exist. Then now I stay in the middle path. I'm a great practitioner, middle path practitioner. In between, I exist, I don't exist. Then even that itself is extreme. And then thinking that you are staying in the middle path itself is not the ultimate. The wise do not dwell even in the middle. Because the very moment you say, I'm in the middle path. Middle path means what? Middle of what? Middle of left and right, or middle of two extremes. That means that's duality already. So once you hold on to this concept that there's a middle, I'm on the middle path, means there's one corner, the other corner, right? If you do not define the left side and the right side, how can you define the middle? So the very moment you say you're in the middle, means you are holding on to the dualistic concept of there's a left, there's a right, then you are not at the highest level. That's why the wise do not even talk about in the middle. So the advice is learn to see with the eyes of Prajnaparamita. Learn to live without fabrication, without mental concept, without mental makeup. Then you can understand the true nature of all phenomena. That's the time when you really understand the true nature of all phenomena. And then it says, when you fully understand everything without fabrication, without mental concept, that's the time you become a Buddha. Now, listening to this end of these verses, just listening to this, they say, Cham, how can I become a Buddha? Cannot even understand that. And then you move back and say, but Buddha says so. Buddha said that all sentient beings have Buddha potential. All right? It's a matter of I having the intention that I want to become a Buddha, and then I go through it. I will be able to attain it. So that helps to balance off. Otherwise, just listening to this, I cannot even understand. How can I reach a stage where I fully understand everything without mental fabrication? Our understanding at this moment is what? It's always mental concept. You think it's like that, like that. Oh, now I understand because it's like that, it's like that, it's like that. So intellectually you say, I understand. But that understanding comes through what? Some mental process. That mental process is a mental fabrication. Something that makes up in the mind. Something that's been constructed. Some ideas that is being constructed in your mind. That is called mental fabrication. So we must go beyond that, where we are able to understand without fabrication. How? What do you mean by understand without fabrication? That means directly perceiving the ultimate truth. Earlier I used the word directly perceiving it. That means through meditation to have the direct realization of how things are. That's the time you become a Buddha. Right? So this is like telling you this is the path. Okay? This is how you should progress. Okay, then finish with all that already. Yeah? That was very, very chim. Okay? So then now come back to more grounded, some areas where we are able to practice immediately. Then how does having this understanding of dependent origination helps us in developing this so-called ultimate love? So he says that when we look at sentient beings, usually we look at sentient beings suffering. What do we mean? We see that they are either very sick, they have no food, they have no drinks, or whatever. No, a lot of physical or mental pain. All right, mental pain. All this we see that they are suffering. Recently, there's a lot of things. I mean, like the collapse of the construction flyover, and also the murder at the Buntat street. All these things, you look at it. When you go deeper into it, you feel that, all this suffering, whatever the reason, it's physical pain and mental pain. But what we need to go deeper into it, and then when we talk about that sort of, at that level, we develop this sort of some level of compassion. We see that, somebody has no food, we donate money, right? Got no clothing, maybe in an earthquake, then we donate clothes. Then we do all sorts of things. And we even try to counsel the person in terms of relationship, say, don't be like that, like that. Whatever it is, we try to do due to our compassion that we have developed, that we see these people are suffering. But that itself is very superficial. It is wonderful that we can do it, but it's really very superficial. Because if you think about it, how? I can give so much money, that's all. Okay, even all my money I give to this person. Either this person spend all the money or whatever it is, then how? This person will continue next life and life after life continue to suffer. And why they continue to suffer? It is because these sentient beings, just like us, just like ourselves, they are also subject to ignorance of going along with the false appearance of inherent existence. All sentient beings, just like us, they hold on, they have this ignorance, they hold on to everything as truly existing. I do not know, of course, don't want to speculate, but like the murder case at the Boon Tat Street, I mean, looking at it and the way which the father-in-law, the man said at the end, say, leave him alone, let him die. That sort of thing shows a lot of anger. Whatever it is, you're not trying to be judged to say who is right or wrong. But the point is that when we do something, it's because we see things as truly there. So we cannot take it. We see as truly there, existing, therefore we respond back. And that is the ignorance. Either great attachment or great anger, right? So then, on that basis, that is the suffering of ignorance. So this is a greater suffering because that suffering itself perpetuates to the next life and the next life and the next life and continue. Even if you're able to counsel the person or give a lot of money or whatever it is, then next life the person continues to suffer because of this ignorance of grasping at the false appearance of ignorance. Due to this confusion, all sentient beings will grasp at the reflection of the moon on the water as though the reflection of the moon is a true moon, a true and inherently existing moon, and because of holding on to that, then causes delusion to arise. Delusion means attachment. We see someone who is very pretty or handsome, we see that it's truly there. We do not see that it is just a skin covered with flesh, but see it's truly there, and then mentally we project, this is beautiful, right? Then we hold on to it. And then when we do not get it, then killing and all that sort of thing comes in. So like this, so delusion of attachment, anger, jealousy, hatred arises. And of course when we respond, when we act based on this delusion, then suffering comes in terms of karma, negative karma. So then, with this insight, with this understanding that, wow, actually sentient beings is not just suffering because of no food or get killed in an accident or whatever it is. They suffer because of ignorance. They are suffering because of ignorance. This insight will stimulate profound love and compassion because you will vividly see how unnecessary all these ills are. That means you see, now that we have some understanding of dependent origination, then when sometimes things happen, we are not Buddha yet, but at least when some small things happen, we can say, hey, it's just dependent origination. It's not really, there's nothing solid there, right? No need to grasp at it, no need to be like completely absorbed into it. Just stand back a little bit. It's like a reflection of the moon. We see the moon on the water, this is a reflection, looks like a moon, but really there's no moon there. It's just a mere reflection, depending on origination. Then like this, okay, let it be, let it be. Then we can think like this, we are able to cool down. But then when we look at others who don't have this knowledge, who don't have the great fortune of listening to this sort of teaching, and they're still holding on to it. Some people just cannot let go, For us, they say, look, doesn't matter . I mean, if the man is so bad, let him go . What for you hold on? Let him go. And then you be happier. I cannot let him go. Then you just don't understand why. Because you are a bystander. What's so good about this man? All right. Just let him go and then you'll be free. You'll be happy. No, I cannot. With that, it is not just the suffering of this person that anguish this person is experiencing, but in the back of my mind, why are you so stupid? The ignorance, why are you so stupid? 很蠢 They just let go, then finish already. Then you go your way, he go your way, then happy, right? Start your life again, right? But cannot. Then when you see that, then you feel great compassion on this. So on a deeper level, on a broader level, all things are like that. We want to be very rich. We want this, we want that. We want to be number one. All these are just merely labeled. They are impermanent. We doesn't mean that we don't work for it. We work towards it, but we don't hold on to it and say that I must have. The very moment you say I must have, you apply all sort of pressure to achieve that, and that creates suffering for everybody. So people do not understand that. Then when you are able to understand that, you look at it, it's just not necessary. This is not suffering. You take it upon yourself only. Because you don't want to let go of the man, therefore you suffer like this. You take it upon yourself. It's really, this sort of, let's call it, unnecessary for all these ills, all these things to come up. Because you hold on to things as truly existing. Right? So when you have that on a broader sense, then we start to develop compassion for sentient beings. This level of compassion, because you see, the thing is that, let's say when we look at terrorists, quite hard to develop compassion for terrorists, right? I mean, you see somebody who is sick, who has no food, very poor, or suffer in the earthquake or whatever, this compassion is easier to arise because we see them suffering physically and mentally. But when you look at terrorists bombing here and there, it's hard to develop compassion. But then when you go deeper into it from this point of view, these people, terrorists, they are holding on to something, either a concept of their whatever belief they have. They hold on to it as truly existing, and then they're prepared to die for it. And in the process, they create so much negative karma, which they will continue to suffer. So unnecessary. All because of ignorance, thinking that this is like that. My idea, theirs is just an idea, a belief. It is like that. All right? It is just a belief. They merely work on a belief. Remember, what is a belief? A belief is a mental fabrication. I believe it's like that. You believe it's like that. So that belief is something which our mind makes up. So it's a mental concept. So based on the mental concept, we're going to create all sorts of negative karma or good karma. And really, that is due to ignorance. So you see, so unnecessary. When you look like that, next time you see the next news, another terrorist somewhere blow up some people or kill somebody, try to look back. Not just immediately look at it and say, these people are bad. Look at it. Like children, so ignorant, just running around. It's so unnecessary to create cause of suffering to others and also to themselves. Then you will develop compassion. Say, yeah, these people are really poor thing. Even the terrorists, really poor thing. Right? Only then you can develop compassion towards them. So with this sort of insight fresh in the mind, then great love and compassion arises in you for all sentient beings. Then you feel close to them. Okay? Because actually all the terrorists, what they want is also to be happy. Right? They don't go around kill somebody and say, oh, I feel so sad that I killed somebody. No, they feel so happy, right? If they're caught, then in the court, then they're smiling away. They feel happy. So it is just wrong concept or wrong ideas. So, and just like us, and then we feel the impact of their having our closest friend over the course of countless lifetimes, sustaining you with kindness. That last part is another meditation which I will not explain in terms of our relationship with others, all sentient beings. So then now comes back to this quote given by His Holiness Dalai Lama. His Holiness Dalai Lama's advice as to how we develop love and compassion. Not just say suffering, go. No food to eat, go. His Holiness Dalai Lama says, to gain access to this depth of love and compassion, what I've just explained, it is necessary first to understand that you yourself and other sentient beings are empty of inherent existence. Now you can understand why the whole teaching of dependent origination, the lack of inherent existence, is so important. Not just developing the wisdom aspect of it, but from the wisdom aspect of it, enable us to really gain access to this deep love and compassion for everybody. Not just for those who are close to us or our relatives. And will not develop compassion for the terrorists, right? So this is the way. This way of developing love and compassion is through wisdom, not just mere say that, wow, suffer, okay, I help. This person, terrorist, so much money, he suffer, I am suffer. That sort of thing. We don't have that sort of feeling, okay? But you see how they create suffering on their own, for themselves, and also for others, because of ignorance. Then you will develop compassion for them also. So if you truly understand that every suffering you are going through is a result of you not being in the nature of your mind, you'll be able to see that others are going through the same suffering as you because of their ignorance and lack of understanding of true nature of all phenomena, and then compassion will come naturally from realizing this wisdom. So you see the power of having some understanding of dependent origination, the power developed through the wisdom of dependent origination. Okay, finish love and joy. Now this part here, living in the joy of wisdom, I go through it quite fast. What are the benefits of understanding dependent origination and being able to live in the joy of wisdom? So if you understand dependent origination, moment to moment, you are able to attain some calmness, some peacefulness, less emotional, less fear, less anxiety, less stressful. So intellectually, you can think, and then you can remain calm for a little while. It doesn't last long. How we can extend it is through meditation practice. Okay, but at least intellectually you understand how. Let's stay calm. Hi, just dependent origination is like that. That's all. Okay, so that's moment to moment. On a shorter and longer term, because you are more calm, you less fear and all that, then you have greater happiness because you will not create negative karma in the process. And of course, ultimately, you will, through the dependent origination, the wisdom that understand dependent origination, you'll be able to break free from all suffering. That means attain liberation, right? So then, people and things, so how? You look at it, but you say, yeah lah, okay, I understand all that. But people and things may still seem to exist concretely and independently on their own side, right? Yeah, after hearing all this, you still there, ma. I can see you truly sitting there solidly, you know. But then, at least intellectually at this level, we know that they're actually not. If I were to sort of pause for a while and look and think, actually, if I were to analyze every one of you, I cannot see, cannot find a really existing person in you, right? So gradually, through the practice, this awareness, because we develop this awareness stronger and stronger, it will weaken our misconception and diminish the trouble they cause. That means we will not respond or react immediately as though things are truly existing. Since accepting appearances as truth is the basic problem, the antidote is to come to realize the falsity of appearances through reasoning. So, what is the problem here? We see things, and we see things appear as true, and then we hold on to it and say things are true. So, what's the antidote? Is to realize that all these appearances are not true. Okay? Through reasoning. So by remember this method, through reasoning. Then, by being constantly mindful, so you develop mindfulness, mindful of dependent origination. Everything is just arising, and then after that dissolving. And having that wisdom, the ignorance that threw us again and again into misery cannot abide simultaneously with it. That means if you have wisdom, your ignorance will diminish. Wisdom and ignorance are opposite. So once you develop more and more wisdom, and this wisdom is through the understanding we learn, through mindfulness that we remember and constantly remind ourselves. So this wisdom will eventually cause our ignorance to get smaller and smaller. Okay, they cannot abide simultaneously. So No more than heat and cold cannot exist in the same spot, cannot have hot and cold at the same spot. So the ignorance is forced to give way, just as the darkness of a room vanishes when we turn on the light. So when we see something, we react. And once you realize it is just dependent origination, with that wisdom, it overcomes the ignorance, then we do not grasp. Then it's like switching on the light. And darkness will go on, the ignorance. So all that the Buddha has taught 84,000 teachings during his life. All that Buddha has taught is related to dependent arising. Everything, we have already explained, Four Noble Truths, 12 Links on Dependent Arising, Noble Eightfold Path, all this, everything, all his teaching is related to dependent arising for the purpose of transcending suffering. For us to, not for individual knowledge, but for us to break suffering, get out of suffering. Shantideva also said in the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, all of these doctrines were taught by the mighty ones for the sake of wisdom. Therefore, those who wish to pacify suffering should generate this wisdom. This wisdom we are talking about is what we have explained over the last 5 weeks. The wisdom of understanding dependent origination. So that's why we call this understanding dependent arising is the essence of the Buddha's teaching. If you do not possess the wisdom of special insight in realizing ultimate mode of existence or phenomena, no matter how strong your determination to be free from all your aspiration for enlightenment, you will not attain liberation and enlightenment. Buddha saw reality and taught it well. Those who train in the Buddha's footstep will transcend all troubles, for they shall destroy the root of evils. And the opposite, but those who turn away from Buddha's teaching, though they verily struggle long and hard, are like inviting more problems as the view of self is further strengthened. Keep on thinking, I must do it, I can do it, I must be number one, I am the center. You keep on holding on to this concept of a truly existing I, you're just creating more and more trouble. So, the last part, just like illusion, how we live our life. This statement from the Lama Tsongkhapa's 3 Principles of the Path. Appearances clear away the extreme of existence. Whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we smell, whatever we touch, whatever we taste, whatever we think, once these appearances come out, we say that what's the fault? What's the problem? Appearance is there, and then we think these appearances are true, we hold on to it. So now the wisdom is that whenever we see something, that seeing something itself, we must have the mindfulness to say that when we see this something, then it will clear the extreme of existence. Without wisdom, we see something, we think that this is really there. Now with wisdom, once we see something there, then we say it doesn't exist. Right? Then when we think that it doesn't exist, voidness clears away the extreme of non-existence. When we think that it doesn't exist, then by thinking of emptiness, then you think that no, emptiness doesn't mean that it does not exist. You should clear that. So on this basis, when you understand the arising of cause and effect, that means dependent origination. If you understand the dependent origination from the viewpoint of voidness, you are not captivated by either extreme views. Dependent origination, the third line. When we say dependent origination, sometimes people say, wow, you spend 5 weeks or 6 weeks coming here to listen to dependent origination. It's simple, I also know what. You want a plant, you want durian fruit, you must plant durian seed. Dependent origination. So that sounds very logical, right? But that person may explain on that basis, but still holding on to that. There is a truly existing durian seed. And then later on, there's a truly existing durian plant with a truly existing durian fruit. So he's just explaining that you want durian fruit, you just plant durian seed. With durian seed, you get durian fruits. You want chili, you plant chili seed. Then you get chili plant with chili. That is dependent origination. But that level is without the understanding of emptiness. That person, when you explain that person, ask the person to explain, he's in his mind, he still hold on to that. There is a truly existing durian seed. And then when it grows to a plant, there's a truly existing durian plant outside with a truly existing durian tree or fruits. That is without emptiness, without the understanding of emptiness. That means without voidness. So the third line says, when you understand the arising of cause and effect, that means you understand dependent origination from the viewpoint of emptiness, that while it comes about, it is empty, then you are not captivated by either extreme view, that things exist, things don't exist. How do we do that? Just an example. Last week I showed the slide, the famous slide. First see mountain, first look at mountain, see mountain. Looking at water, see water. Just look at mountain, forget about the water. First you look, you go sightseeing, right? You see beautiful mountain, whatever it is in Switzerland or wherever. You see the mountain, you see mountain or not? First time you look and see are two different things. Look is like that, see is actually seeing it. Huh? So you look at the mountain, but you see a mountain not? Yeah, there's a mountain there. Okay, so the first reaction, appearance, there's an appearance of a mountain. Then after that, you pause. Use some mental intellect based on what you have learned. You look, although I see mountain, got mountain there, meh? Then you see, this mountain is what? It's just stones and rocks and some trees and grass, and these are the parts. Okay? Then also due to causes and conditions, due to some earth movement and all that, therefore the mountain, the earth being pushed up, therefore it becomes a mountain. If the earth movement moves the other way of moving that way, then it becomes a valley. So due to the causes and condition of the earth movement moving like this, therefore the earth elements all move up, so become a mountain. And on that basis, we give it a name, mountain. So that is a mountain. So this is, second line is with wisdom. You understand, actually there's no mountain. Right? Although mountain is there, but I cannot find a truly existing mountain. So that means the appearance itself, say that, okay, there's no mountain. Then you sit back, finally. Now you see mountain now. Yes, I see a mountain which is not truly existing on its own part. A mountain which is empty, which is voidness, and from the voidness, dependent arising, therefore, this mountain is there. This mountain is there, not existing on its own part. It is empty. And yet, because it's empty, it is there. It can arise as a mountain. So yes, there's a mountain. And you take photograph and enjoy it. You reach that stage, and you are able to do that for everything, you are really becoming very wise. You see things on an aspect of reality. So, just remember this. Next time you go traveling or whatever this, or no need travel, you go shopping. Maybe tomorrow Sunday you bring your family go shopping. Then your son say, "Daddy, that's a nice handphone there, latest model. I want to buy. Got me? I don't see any handphone there, man. I only see batteries. I see plastic. I see some other parts. I don't see any handphone there." Then see what your son respond. Okay, so anyway, coming to the end, just as I said, these are two classes combined, so taking a little bit longer, but not long. These are a summary. So again, Buddha give us the advice. In the King of Samadhi Sutra, just how things actually exist. Just as a magician makes illusions of horses, oxen, carts, and other things, nothing whatsoever is as it appears. There's nothing. It appears to be there, but it's not what it appears. So know all things to be like this. I've just explained earlier. Things appear as a mountain. They are not as it appears. So we must try to look at things in this manner. Also in the Buddha's Diamond Cutter Sutra, Buddha advised how we see things. Like a star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Condition means depending on causes and condition. So then finally, the same slide. If you have forgotten everything that we have covered over the last 6 weeks, it's okay, but remember this. Anything you see, when you analyze it, it comes about depending on past or that whatever arises dependently. So you say this is empty. So the very moment you look at this, that is depending on various things, you say this is empty, this is selfless. So anything you see, you try to analyze and say it is empty. And since nothing, whatever, that is not dependently, since there's nothing, whatever, that is not dependently existing, then you find that there's nothing that is not dependently existing. For that reason, there's nothing whatsoever that's not empty. Then you know everything is merely empty of inherent existence. Just with that alone, everything is just empty of inherent existence. So whatever things, although we are not very high level practitioner, but whatever things that we experience, immediately your first response that it is just dependent arising. It's empty of inherent existence. Immediately you cool down, your attachment, your anger, whatever it is, you cool down. It doesn't go off completely, but at least it dropped down to a level where you will not just simply take out a knife and then go and kill somebody. That's what happens, right? You're so angry that you just take out a knife and kill somebody. That goes down. It's just empty. That quarrel you have, that emotional things you have, the quarrel you have with your family or whatever it is, it's just empty. Due to all these causes, therefore this quarrel come out. You stay back. Yeah, all these are just empty of inherent existence. Immediately you cool down. But then it gives you some space to try to manage the situation. So this is my parting words about you. Having listened to this course for 6 weeks, and at least small part have this wisdom that all these are dependent arising. And because they are dependent arising, therefore they are empty of inherent existence. This is the meaning of all things are emptiness. So also further on it says, all afflictive emotion are overcome through overcoming ignorance. All our delusion, our anger, our hatred, all this, how we overcome that? People always ask that question. I'm very angry, I'm a very jealous person, I'm a very proud person, I'm very attached, how to overcome it? So the ultimate, of course, normally we just say, no need to be angry, no need to be attached and all that. But the ultimate is that we overcome ignorance. How do we overcome ignorance? When dependent arising is sin, ignorance does not arise. So just now I say, if something, I want to get angry, maybe you are quarreling with somebody else, then this afflictive emotion come out, jealousy and all this come out. So it is coming up because of ignorance. Then how do we cut this ignorance at that point? You see that all these are dependent arising. And once that dependent arising is sin, ignorance will not come out. When ignorance doesn't come out, your attachment, all this will be reduced. Afflictive emotion arise from false conceptions. When afflictive emotions and their actions cease, when we are able to stop all these afflictive emotions, then there is liberation. So even on a very mundane level, the very moment you get angry, then you see that, this actually just depends on origination. This anger comes about because of ignorance. Then to cut this ignorance, you see things are dependent on origination. So once you see that all these are just dependent on origination itself, then this afflictive emotion will not come about. And that moment, that instant, you have some level of liberation. You are free from the grasping of anger. The anger, this is not emotion. The anger and jealousy is like, you just like devil like this hold on to us, no? Then we act, right? The very moment you think like this, then the anger or that jealousy straight away lessen. Then we are free. Here we're not talking about free in terms of completely free from cyclic existence, but that instant, sometimes we call it the instant, the momentary liberation. We are liberated from creating another negative karma due to afflictive emotion. That is liberation in this context. Okay, so taken a bit more time, but anyway, any question on this? I hope it's a very difficult subject. I tried to introduce it in a manner where slowly lead you to some understanding, but the last part can become quite lost, but that's okay. But that's not my objective of this course is not to try to explain all those parts, which some of it I also don't understand perfectly. But the idea is to introduce the idea that all things are just dependent arising. 一切都是缘起，一切缘起，一切缘灭。Due to condition, it arises, and due to condition, it disappears. The quarrel, due to condition, it arises. You create a different set of condition, the quarrel just disappears. So you live your life like this. It helps a lot. Okay, so if no question, then dedication. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain a state of Buddhahood and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. May the supreme view of emptiness that has arisen rise and grow. And may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Okay, once again, thank you very much for your patience in coming here for the 6 weeks to attend this very short course. My parting words will be, live mindfully, learn mindful meditation, watch your breath, right? Live mindfully, live with wisdom. Because from wisdom, it will develop compassion. So when we say live with wisdom, it includes compassion. But if we say live with compassion, then the question will be how? Without wisdom. So live with wisdom, live mindfully. So see you again sometime. Then of course, it depends, right? Whether we meet again, it also depends. So anyway, have a nice weekend. See you sometime. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu.